Into the Badlands, Season 2, Episode 2, Force of Eagle's Claw. Once again, another good episode. We actually got to see a lot more of the characters this time. Lydia came back into play, and we got to see her. A very interesting sequence, because, like, the characters show up, and because it's been so long, I'm like, there's always things where I'm like, I kind of remember this. I'm like, I know that this guy is somebody's dad. I just couldn't remember which character. And then Lydia showed up. I was like, oh, okay. So now we see where she's been for the past 6 months. Everything's kind of been chaotic, so we get to see a little bit more of her character. Unfortunately, we see more of Quinn, and just I'm not too happy about where that's headed. Like, I'm excited as far as the writing. I'm happy. The guy is just a bad guy, so I'm not exactly happy about what may or may not come to pass. But with Lydia, it was really cool. We get to see her, with her people again, and we get to see this wedding take place. And then a dude gets married, and boom, he just gets impaled, so he dies right off the top. That really sucked. Also, it was super random, but I noticed, I don't know if you guys caught this, when that happened, the guy jumped back like a second too early. I saw him like bend his legs and kind of move. I was like, I caught that. It was like a little second, but he kind of moved before, like it actually, like, they CG'd the spear coming in. I just wanted to mention that because I noticed it when I was watching. But it was really good. She has to fight off these people because everyone, this guy gets killed and these raiders come along. And it's only two guys. It's not like it's a bunch of people. It's just two guys that come along. And everyone just starts to kneel down. Like, they don't fight because everything's kind of left up to the gods. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's just left up to, whoever's in control. And it was very interesting to watch that. Like, everyone's just kneeling down and stuff. And, people are getting beat up. Like, this lady tries to run and the guy just, like, hits her in the back with, like, this, the spiked bat. The other guy who's trying to help the woman when they're trying to take her away, he's like, hey, leave her alone. He, like, backhands the guy, then he just starts stabbing him, and everybody's just standing around, and that kind of went away. Lydia's, she's reaching for that knife, and then she just tosses it, and it hits that guy's back, and then she's like, I don't play that crap, and she starts stabbing the dude, and she just goes to, like, this really crazy fight sequence against these two guys with no help. And there's just so many people. It was just really crazy to watch because it's like there's all these people around. I was like, if she died, which I figured she wouldn't, with her, being a main character, but I was just like, man, if she died right here, they would just be like, it's what the guys would have it be. Like, oh well. And then it was really crazy. I was like, how can they get mad at her for fight? I mean, because their dad was mad. He's like, how could you, fight, and who are you to, like, fight in our name? And it was like, if we died, then it would be left to the gods. It would be like the gods' decision. And I'm like, well, with that logic, couldn't it easily be the gods' decision that she fought and saved everybody? But, it was just like, it was just very interesting. I was like, wow, that was a fairly intense. It just made it more intense because there were so many people that could have helped. Like the first guy that was trying to help defend the woman, and instead of letting them just take her, he dies. And, people were just standing around. And, Lydia she just sees all these people just around it, and it's like, that's kind of why I left to begin with. Like, I can't just be in this sort of life where people just come along and kill whoever they want, especially, like, my dad right in front of me. So, great scene, and just the way it played out with the elements, and, the dynamics of her, and kind of her former life, as a baroness, and, what she wants to do by being with her people, and who she grew up with, and then going to her son asking for protection, and how that starts to play out, where Ryder kind of has that, he kind of has that moment where he's like, I am a big boy sort of thing, which I thought was funny, because she's like, I can help you and teach you how to be a better baron. He's like, I am a real baron and stuff, and I was like, it just made me laugh a little, because it was, and that's kind of the point of his character, is that he was always the young son who is never as good as kind of the adopted son in Sonny. And that's kind of where he is right now, where he's, Sonny is gone, his dad is gone, seemingly dead, and so he's taken over as the child who was kind of never respected, or really never kind of meant to be the next Baron, but he is. And it's interesting watching that, where all these people are gone, all these people have left him to go to the widow. Even, and I can't remember that character's name, but the guy in the wheelchair is played by, I want to say, no, that's not Lance Henriksen. I can't remember the actor's name either, but obviously Sonny's former tutor, like, even he left and went to the widow. So, there's just so many people that have left. There's news that's traveling that doesn't really bode too well for Ryder, and he just has that moment where he kind of just brushes off his mother, like, I don't need anyone's help to be the new Baron, and I certainly don't need yours, because the last time I saw you, you said I wouldn't last, I think you said a month, yeah, so I wouldn't last a month without you, so tensions ended up sparking up pretty fast there, because he was like, you're my mom, like, he was kind of cool about it, he was just like, let's give you some food, you're my mom, no big deal. And then she brought up that stuff about him not being a good Baron, and it was like, okay, you can get that out. I'm done with you now. Let's see how long your people last without me. So, it was it was a nice bonding moment, and then she brought up, like, you're not a good Baron, and, the arrogance and stuff like that, and being kind of like his dad. And it was like, oh, well, bye, and, let's see what happens to you now. So, I don't know exactly how they're going to kind of work through that relationship throughout this season, but I'm actually excited to see that, because she's in a very odd position, no longer being the Baroness or one of the Baronesses, and she can't really stick around with her people. I don't know if they wanted to stick around after what she just did. I don't know how long they would even allow her to stay there, because they know if some more raiders came along, she would fight back and kill them, which they would consider going against their god's will. So not entirely sure how that's going to play out with her character, but I'm actually curious about her journey. So looking forward to that. We get a little bit of stuff on the Widow. This episode kind of mainly focused on, I'd say, like, Sonny and, like, his family. So it's like Sonny, Quinn, Vale, and their baby Henry. And then there's some other stuff, kind of thrown in there with Ryder, of course. And then we also got to see some more stuff with the Widow. We see Tilda talking to Sonny's former mentor. I have to really remember his name for the next episode. But he talks about how he knew, he heard about what she did in the last episode, and it's like, you can't be a regent that doesn't follow orders. And I thought that was really good. It's like, what made Sonny so good was that he, put all his emotions into a box, and he did what he had to do until he didn't. And that's when things started to fall apart. So I just thought that was a really great scene where they talk about, missing Sonny and kind of hoping that Sonny is alive and hoping that MK is alive, because they just don't know what's going on with them. And, Tilda having to follow certain orders in order to be a good regent, and, to do what she's kind of told and not kind of just go out and get, emotional revenge and things like that. So I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. But they also referenced towards the end of the episode something that I'm really looking forward to next week, which is this conclave that Ryder calls upon for all of the barons to get together. And I'm looking forward to that, because Widow is convinced to actually go, and instead of, all chaos and just killing everybody, kind of, talk it out and, plead her case as to why she didn't break any of the Foundation rules. So I'm actually really looking forward to how that's going to play out in this next episode. We should see, I think, if I can remember right from the last season, we saw, I want to say maybe 3 barons total, and that was, of course, Quinn, Widow, and then there was one other person that I believe was a guy, and I think those are the only 3 regents that we saw in, like, the entire first season. There may have been 4, but I'm kind of excited to see, because if I remember right, there are like 8 regents, or 8 barons, or something like that, so I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out, and, just who they chose, and how many barons are male, and how many barons are actually going to be female, because I think they kind of talk about how the Widow is the only female Baron at this point. So I don't know if that's changed, or at least in the first season, I think that's what they talked about. So I don't know if that's changed between season 1 and season 2. But I'm just curious to see who they chose, and how that's gonna play out in the different styles, because that's one of the big things about the show too. Is like everybody has like their own outfits and stuff. The Widow has like blue, and that is freaking awesome. Of course, Quinn at one point had red and stuff like that, and now we see his new secret thing, which I'm very curious about, but they almost look militarized. They almost look like they're all wearing like tactical suits, which I thought was a pretty interesting distinction. But I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with the conclave in the next episode. Getting to Quinn and Vale and the baby, I really don't know what to think about where that's headed. I mean, it's clear that Vale and the baby are trapped. She helped Quinn survive because she needed someone to help her. And that's ultimately just what happened. Like, she helped him live, and he helped protect her and the baby until the baby was born. And now it's like, well, the baby's born. Of course, Belle wants to get the heck out of there because it's Quinn. Like, he's not a good guy. And we see that it's not just the 3 of them. It's actually Quinn, and he's like a baron again. He's like a smaller baron, but he has people, and he talks about how he's glad that they didn't leave him and stuff like that. So some people, maybe they just found him, or maybe he just went to the people that he trusted the most or something like that. And it seems like he's still recruiting people, because they talk about when they hunted one of the animals, it was like a younger guy, and he's like, it was like your first kill, so your next kill would be with human flesh and stuff like that. So he's still recruiting younger people, and maybe some of the people from the first season grew up a little. It's been 6 months, and so he still has them kind of going along for the journey with him as this kind of underground secret baron. And it was just crazy. We have Bill with the baby, and we have like the first guy where he's standing in the doorway, and it's, got the window, so he's looking at her, and she starts to get a little freaked out, and he's just staring. And then Quinn comes along and is like, okay, you're relieved. And then we have like the crazy ceremony at the end. So we have this ceremony, and Quinn is talking about how 100 years ago, one of the big things was that barons used to baptize their children in blood. That was like their first thing, and to not do that will bring about basically calamity. It was like a superstitious sort of thing. And he mentioned, like, I failed to do that with my own son, and it proved true. Like, there were just so many things that fell apart. He wasn't, Ryder wasn't the son that he really wanted him to be. And he's like, but I won't make that mistake again. He's like, I've been given a second chance. And as soon as he said that, I was like, well, that blows. Because I didn't want him to really say that, like he has another son. But of course, that's what ends up happening, and that's kind of how he feels. And so he has the ceremony go along, and this is when I knew that guy was screwed. So he had the little thing for the blood, and I was like, okay, well, where is his blood coming from? I assumed at first it was going to be the animal, and I believe still, I'm pretty sure it technically was. I think the second person did get the blood from the animal still. But when Quinn was like, okay, hand me the thing, and he's like this, and he took this empty basket, and then he turned to a totally different person and gave him an empty basket, I was like, that first guy is screwed. There is no reason for him to take an empty basket and not do what he needs to do, but just to take it and then give it to someone else and it's still empty. I was like, wow, that first guy is toast, because that's the guy. And so, of course, he turns, he's like, the beautiful baby, huh? And he's like, yes, Baron. He's like, beautiful woman too, huh? And he froze, and he was like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, it's cool. I saw you staring while she was feeding the baby and stuff. And I'm like, here we go. Like, this guy is done. And he just stabs him. And that's it. Like, I'm like, yep, that guy is dead. He killed that guy just in front of everybody. He kills him. And he's like, she saved my life, which means that she saved all of yours. So if anyone does anything to Vel or the baby, this is what's going to happen. And I was like, yep, I knew that guy was dead. Like, it's just, as soon as he took it, I was just like, yep, that guy is toast. So that was a crazy scene, and he kills that guy. And then, he takes the little thing and he drinks the blood, which was even crazier. I thought it would just be, they were gonna do where like he poured it on the baby, but it would have to be a real baby for them to do that, which they, of course, they wouldn't do. Because I was thinking, it would be weird. Like, you can't pour fake blood on a fake doll of a baby. It would be like, that's obviously a doll. So it made a lot more sense to just have him do it. And then he does like the little Lion King thing where he just was like right across his head, he put the little line. And I was like, wow, that's not great. That's not good. That's not good at all. So he's got them trapped, and there's really nothing Vel can do because she needed the protection, and now she's kind of trapped with him. And it's very evident, like, she's like, the baby needs fresh air and sunlight, which, the baby, we'll just assume it's been a couple of days, we'll say like 2 days. So the baby needs to see sun and be out in the open world, and Quinn's like, I'll find a way to bring sunlight to you. And so he leads her up to this place that has a grate where the sun comes down. And he's like, see, I promised you sunlight. And then when he closed the door, I swear it sounded like he had like 15 locks on that thing. Because he closed, and then it was like, it was like a lock with the key, and then he had another lock, and he was like pulling some change and stuff. And I was just like, what? And how many locks are on this door? And he just had her like trapped in there until he decided that she could come out. And I was just like, man, it's such a crazy situation to watch her have this child and have him be the protector. It's just insane to me. It's like, it's really crazy to see that. So we'll see what happens, because he seems to really be in hiding. That's been his thing for 6 months. He's had other people with him, because I assumed that he was alone. I honestly assumed it was just the three of them. And then we see he's still a baron to some guys, and he's still recruiting people, and they're in like this underground like facility, whatever it formerly was. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. I really thought it was just the three of them kind of on the run. But he has people. He has a facility. He has a base of operations. He has men that will kill for him. And it was just very interesting. He's expanded a lot more than I thought he would in those 6 months. I thought he'd have nothing, and while he's of course not back to where he was before, he still has a lot. He still has a lot that he's in control of. So I thought that was pretty crazy. Of course, Sunny and MK still dealing with their trials and tribulations. MK is going through the process of trying to fight his inner demons. He got beat up the first time, and he had it. He was holding his own. The second time, we had a cool fight sequence of him kind of versing his evil self. And once he got up against that tree, he was kind of done for. Like, he was just getting beat up, and so of course the master has to kind of zap him out of it. But he's in training, and he's trying. He's doing everything he can to control the darkness within him, which the master mentions is considered legion. Like, so that means, like, you know, we are legion because one is many, that sort of thing. So that made me really curious if that is going to really apply, if we're going to find out exactly how these abilities manifested in people, or, you know, what that means. Because he really was fighting a dark version of himself. So it's like, you know, it's not just him. It's him plus other creatures, because he has this ability now. So I thought that was interesting. A little bit of extra info on this power. Still super vague, but just like a little hint as to what they're doing with the ability and stuff. So that was pretty cool. They mentioned the fact that the guy he was talking to before has gone missing, or at least he tried to run away. And there's a promo, well, in the promo for the next episode, the guy seems to be on like some sort of table, and it just makes me wonder, was he taken? Did they say he ran away, but he was actually kidnapped and they wanted to do experiments on him? Or, you know, what's the deal? Because we saw, you know, in the last episode, I assumed that it was the guy he was talking to, because I don't really remember his name. But I'm like, he was the only person he talked to, so I would assume this is the only person that they're actually going to bother referencing. And he mentioned how in the last episode, he would cut himself all the time to protect his people. He had a ton of cuts and stuff. So maybe there's something where he's fairly unique for that. Just like MK is unique because he's so strong, maybe this guy is unique because he's done it and he's so adept at it. So it just makes me curious if they're just experimenting on him in that regard, or if there's something else even crazier going on. Because I'm like, why would he be on this weird, you know, like surgery table if it was just, oh, they found him and he was running away? So very curious how that's going to play out. But for the most part, MK was kind of just training in this episode. It was fairly normal. He just kind of almost got killed by himself 2 separate times. But he's trying. He definitely went back in this episode. So I was glad to see that he wasn't like running away from it. And it's not going to take forever for him to kind of go for the gold. It's like, no, he saw what happened. He saw this dark version of himself. He saw those people that he killed, and he doesn't want that anymore. It affected him, but he was like, you know, it's already affected me. Like, I've already done it. I need to control it now so I don't ever do it again. So I was happy to see that he was able to kind of work through those emotions all in one episode and at least attempt to go back into, you know, fighting his darker side. So I thought that was cool that it was so fast-paced in that regard. Moving on to Sunny and his partner, and Badgie, I hope that's, I'm pronouncing that right. I kind of forgot in this episode, but Badgie. That was pretty cool. We get to see a pretty cool fight sequence with the two of them chained together. They fight the big guy. And my girlfriend was actually watching it. She was freaking out because she really thought that one of them would die. And it was really funny. It was like we were watching The Walking Dead or something, because she gets like really tense when she thinks something bad is going to happen. And she was freaking out during the scene with the fan, like when the guy pushed Sunny and it was like super close. It did chop a little bit of his hair off. And fortunately, right before he's about to get killed, Badgie puts the sword in the fan, and it stops it for a minute. And, you know, when they're going through, she was freaking out that they're about to get chopped up and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I know Sunny's going to make it. I know both of these guys are going to make it. I figured the big guy wasn't, but I thought that he would get his arms chopped off. I didn't think that all 3 of them would make it through. And then Sunny just did like the double kick, and he just knocked them straight into the fan, and he just exploded on everybody, and just bits and blood everywhere. I was like, okay. I thought it was going to be a little bit simpler. You know, he'd be stuck in there and the fan would chop on, you know, or come on and just boom, his arms are gone. He's dead. That dude just gone. He's just a little puree of blood and stuff. So, of course, the guy's mad. I know there's a name for him, but like the leader of the, you know, the coal mine, he's super pissed. So of course he's going to send people after the 2 of them. They're able to escape. Sunny realizes that he actually has someone who can really help him out, and he comes across this wall. And so this was a part of the world building where it was pretty awesome. Honestly, I love this scene just because of the world building. And, you know, know, Sunny was like, how in the world did the Barons build this? And Badgie's like, they didn't build this. This was here way before they were. And I was like, that's good world building. I thought that was really cool. They are, I don't think they're even in the Badlands. They're like outside the Badlands. They're in like a totally different area right now. So he sees this wall that he never even knew existed before. And it's just like this cool little bit of world building. And so the promo is focusing on another person who I guess is like guarding the wall, who used to be a Clipper as well. So excited to see how that's going to play out, and just seems to be a lot of chaos there because all, you know, the guy sends a bunch of people after Sunny and Badgie. So looking forward to this next episode for sure. Really good. We got to see, like I said, we got to see more characters show up. We got to see where kind of everyone is now. We kind of know officially where all the main characters are at right now and what they've been doing for a while. So really good episode to see more of the characters. Literally every character, I think, was in this episode, all the main characters. So that was really good. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts or least favorite parts. And I actually want to know what you guys think is going to happen at this Baron Conclave. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it'll be super chaotic, but even if it's not a chaotic battle and there's a ton of bloodshed, I think this is going to lead to some really good stuff for the rest of the season, because we'll get to see the Barons have this really big debate, and then what they decide to do with Ryder, I think, might change. They might be following the rules now, but that was kind of, you know, half and half respect, half and half fear, and I don't think anybody fears Ryder. So I'm very curious how that might get affected in this next episode, where, you know, they mentioned a conclave hasn't been done in like decades. How are people going to see Ryder, where he's the first one to call it in a long time, where he was never really respected to begin with? That's where I think the big change is going to come from, not really the bloodshed, but really the political stuff. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen. That it's going to be some political stuff that kind of backfires on Ryder, and then that affects how he decides to react, and maybe he'll start breaking some rules. But I would love to know your theories on where things are headed. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.